So it's a 10-second delay. Okay, I think I can shorten the delay a little bit.
I think you can when you do the
All right. Well, it is now 4 p.m. Yes, we are live. Hello, Eric Carswell. I'm glad you could make it. We have our very first live stream where we are exploring new territory in outreach, and part of it is just the very fact that we're doing a live stream. And I am thrilled to be able to welcome Howard Thompson. Howard Thompson comes from Australia. In fact, he is sitting in Australia right now in his church in Roseville, which is just a little bit north of the capital. No, it's not the capital city, but the biggest city of Sydney. And just by way of introduction, Howard was ordained in 2011, and he has served for about a year and a half in Brenathan as an assistant pastor, and then he moved to Colchester, England, and he served there until 2012. And then in 2012, he and his family moved to Australia, and they've been serving there ever since. They have had things like COVID to deal with and some real significant challenges. And as I understand it, one of the ways he has dealt with and coped with, especially the challenge of the isolation with COVID, was to create it wasn't a live stream, but a podcast or a live stream video cast where he is able to share spiritual truths with people from our new church perspective. So with that, now I know somewhere on this software, I have a little button I can push and it can make applause, but I've forgotten what button that is, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to welcome Howard into our screen here. He's been waiting in what we would consider a green screen, and here he is. So welcome, Howard. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, David. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever it might be for you. Um, just, just to correct one mild error, and I get it because there are a lot of dates. Ordained in 2011, moved to Colchester in 2012, moved to Sydney in 2018. So
Oh,
six-ish
gotcha.
years in Colchester and 6-ish years in Colchester, 6-ish years here in Australia.
Y-
Getting
yeah,
getting
thank you
close
for
to 7,
correcting that.
actually.
All
That's
right,
all right.
Howard, uh, let's get
Yeah.
down to business. Tell us about how you got into this YouTube podcasting thing.
Yeah. Familiar names on there. Apologies for any repeats that any of you hearing the story again, but there are people who probably haven't heard the story. Um, I consider myself a very reluctant YouTuber. Um, I mean, very, very reluctant. I don't. I'm not an early adopter of anything. Um, and I started my ministry in 2011. Um, uh, some of you are familiar with New Church Live, so there was some buzz about what we could do online, but we didn't exactly know what that was or how that was going to look. Um, I, you know, had a
So that
number
was
of
back
people,
in Brenathan before you even went to Colchester.
yeah, yeah, but that's just from an awareness standpoint, not of me actually doing anything.
Gotcha.
Um, And, people would occasionally nudge me and say, "Oh, you should do something on YouTube. You should do something on YouTube." And I'm like, "I watch YouTube, but I'm not going to do anything on YouTube." I resisted for two main reasons. One, just, overwhelming self-consciousness about being on video. It's interesting to note most people actually don't like their own voices because they don't sound like they sound in their head.
Mhm.
So, um, uh, so there's, probably a little bit of fear of embarrassment, especially in, an online community because people can be harsh and rude online in a way that they wouldn't be sitting in a coffee shop. And I also didn't want my sister to be my only viewer. I didn't want the ignominy of that. Um, what changed? So, well, we came to Australia in 2018. Spent followed the dean of theological school's advice to say don't do anything for the first year, don't change anything, just get to know the society. Got to know the society from late 2018 into late 2019. Got ready to do some things, and the pandemic hit. Pandemic hit in March. All of a sudden, I was tasked with finding a way to continue to share a Sunday message with people who couldn't show up at church anymore. Um, and I had about a week to figure out how to do that. I think I remember driving with my wife to the gym when we heard that life was going to change on a Tuesday. Um, I had so I did it. I had a decade-old camera.
Hmm.
I had some cue cards on a whiteboard, and I had a free version of iMovie to do some editing on my computer. Um, my initial videos, they mirrored a shortened service. I did absolutely everything that I do in a service. I I lit a candle, I opened the word, I said the Lord's Prayer, I I read lessons, and I gave a shortened version of my sermon, and then I did a closing prayer.
Hmm.
I even included, if memory serves, I even included some links to hymns that people could watch, created by other YouTube creators. Um, what did I learn in that? Um, well, I was pleasantly surprised to find that my congregation grew. Sure, I expected to see the number of people who regularly came to church to be watching, but I didn't expect, maybe in hindsight I should have, I didn't expect to see all the people who started watching who'd had a historic connection with the society, but maybe they attended as children, they moved away. Maybe they attended as adults, but they've retired, and Sydney isn't a big place to retire. It's too expensive, so people often move away. And that connection with people beyond, uh, beyond the geographic region, that was enough to keep me going post pandemic. So while it's gone through a couple of iterations, I still produce a 5 to 7 minute video summary of my weekly sermon. And I've been doing that ever since the pandemic. So at this point, I've produced over 250 probably sermon summaries. And I continue to do that even as my channel has evolved in the last year.
So just
Um,
let
yeah,
me
sorry.
interrupt here a little bit.
Please do.
Because if I remember correctly, you are uploading maybe 4 different things a week. Is that true?
Yes, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I'll go ahead.
what are you uploading?
Okay. Um, so as I said, once lockdown was over, I continued to do my weekly sermon summary.
Hmm.
It went through a couple of different iterations. I no longer go through all of the ritual because most people, if they want ritual, they can actually go to a physical church. Um, Chatting with a number of my colleagues, two in particular, Todd Beiswinger, who has a YouTube channel called Lord, I'm Trying, and David Moffat, who's got a YouTube channel, the Swedenborg Community in Victoria.
Who's with us
They
live right now?
Yes, he is. They were doing some different content work, not necessarily sermons, though David does live stream his sermons. Um, they were also doing some different content, which was not just delivering a sermon or a sermon summary. And they were encouraging me to do more. Howard, you can do more with your channel. You can do more with your channel. So, um, not an early adopter. I let things stew in my head for years and years and finally decide to do something. And last year, seeing, our in person uh, attendees continue to go down and my online viewership go up
Mm.
marginally as it was, I finally reached out to Curtis Childs, who some of you know, who graciously gave me a great deal of time, and talked with me about what I could do with the channel that I'm not doing. And he was just a huge, huge help. And everybody that works with Curtis has been a huge help. Um, as of September 1st. So on September 1st, I had 90 viewers,
You're
followers,
talking 2024?
subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. September
Okay.
1st, 2024, I had 90 subscribers to my channel. And I at that point began offering something beyond just my weekly summary. So I now post on YouTube um, 5 different things. I continue my weekly summary, sermon summary. I now produce a 1 minute video. We have a sample of it. We'll take a look at that. I'm calling that Gems. And I'm calling it Gems because it comes out of a tiny little book that a friend of mine gave me that he found in an ancient bookstore,
High tech.
used
That's a high
bookstore.
tech book there.
It's a very high tech book, and it's called Gems of Swedenborg, and it's just got a whole bunch of really nice little summaries of doctrinal points. But of course, it's written in the 1800s, so I've been using that as a guide, and I pick one of those and I put that up on Wednesday into a proper. I will note my channel is called Spiritual Shorts, but according to YouTube, there's nothing short about what I've been doing because YouTube says a short is everything 60 seconds and under. So I did start to produce those shorts. So on Wednesdays, I put out proper short videos. On Fridays, I put out a longer form video. It's 3 to 5 minutes, and it's taking a look at. Um, uh, I'm walking through every single chapter subheading of Heaven and Hell. Again, summarizing it, trying to put it in words and terms that people can relate to. And with each one, trying to say, okay, we're talking about angels in heaven. What the heck does that have to do with me? And I try to do that in every video and say, how
Mm-hmm.
can you manifest this in your own life? So that's 3 produced videos every week. Um, from that, from the 2 longer videos, my sermon summary and the Heaven and Hell series, I produce clips. So I'll pull out of there some clip, usually 30 seconds to 60 seconds long, that just gives an idea of what the longer video is about.
So just to be clear, you have filmed a longer format video and then you're ripping out just a really short bit of that. So you're not
Yes.
refilming it and you're just
No.
publishing that. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And those are the kinds of things that show up in Facebook and YouTube and Instagram as reels. So I don't know how familiar are you with how familiar everybody is with that, but they're just short little videos that you can watch over and over again and go through all kinds of different things. And then the last thing is I started posting. Um, well, I would call it a meme, but it's basically just a thought for the day. I call it my Monday meditations,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just one, one. Sometimes it's just a quote, and sometimes it's a quote with a little bit of an explanation, and that goes up on Mondays.
Howard,
Um,
Howard,
yeah,
you just cut out for a second there. Could you recap that last couple sentences?
yeah, yeah. So on Mondays, I put up something I call Monday meditation, and it's sometimes just a quote, and sometimes it's a quote with a little bit of a reflection on that quote.
Oh,
It's not a video. It's
oh,
just
oh,
it'd be
oh,
like
okay.
it would be like going through Facebook and somebody's put up something that says,
Oh,
God is great.
yeah, I think so. I have a question from John here,
Yeah.
and I think that you're speaking directly to that. He said you've started picture quotes, right? They are
Yes.
nice. Are they coming from the gems? Was his question. I guess
Uh,
sometimes, maybe.
yeah. So I have no. There. I mean, they might come from gems once in a while if I've been working with a gem, and I'm like, oh, that's a real gem. Um, most of the ones I've done come from my own collection of favorite passages. In the reading, you're reading something, you're studying for something, you're like, oh wow, that really captures it. So I make note of that, and I've got a file on my computer of those. Um, uh, so so that's where I currently am, with basically 5 things going out in a week. Each one is going to speak to a different group of people, a different, a different profile of person. Um, and I will just note that starting on September 1st, 90 subscribers, I now have 1,720 subscribers.
Woohoo! Way to go.
Um, and I could talk a little bit about, I think I should talk a little bit about what I think drove that. Um,
Yes.
kudos to Curtis and Off the Left Eye, because Curtis invited me to do a talk. Um, well, to be part of a panel with Todd Beisinger, who I'd mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
That gave me a nice little boost. Um, one of the other things that gave me a boost, and I reluctantly mentioned this, I put up something that people hated.
Oh,
Um, and I sensed I would get some pushback on it. I didn't expect I would get as much pushback on it as I did, but basically I said something very Swedenborgian, and that was that there was no Adam and Eve. That Adam and Eve and the creation story are a metaphor that speak about how our lives are transformed spiritually, and they're not real people.
hmm,
Um, they were representative of real people, the first people with consciousness, with a connection with the Lord, but they're not real people. And I got attacked. Oh, my goodness. There's a segment of Christianity that sees what we what we put out there as absolute utter heresy. Now the beauty
way
of
to
it
go.
is, now the beauty of it is that drove so much viewership to the channel,
Interesting.
and my subscriber numbers skyrocketed. I mention that, and I say I hesitate to say that because I really want to resist being the guy that's every single video I put out there is trying to trigger people. Trying, you're, because there's so much of
Yeah,
that hooey.
I had a YouTube guy who does very well with his channel. I asked him, is it possible to have a successful YouTube channel that's not provocative, with that you're entering into, like, introducing your new videos with something provocative? He said no, it's not possible. You have to have something that's provocative or
Yeah,
confrontational or something in order to
yeah.
get the views. I don't know if it's true, but it was
Well,
interesting that he
I'm
said it.
I'm going to tell you that that it is so doctrinally inaccurate that that the transformation that we go through in our spiritual lives is so not that. It happens in the slow burn
Yeah.
of what happens when you think about the nature of your life and put that up side by side with what the Lord calls you to. And
So
that
Howard,
happens in such a quiet way. But oh
I
well.
want to interrupt
Yeah, sorry.
because I'm dying to show this video that you made. I'm wondering
Ooh,
if
this
you
is a
would.
premiere.
Yeah, well, so we have a video that we've loaded that nobody has seen yet. So this is, yes, a world premiere. And maybe you want to say a few words about it before we show it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it is I'm on YouTube. You know, I've got channels that I subscribe to. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I see the way my phone affects me, and the feeds on my phone and my computer affect me. So, you know, I noted that in my Heaven and Hell series, I try to always say, okay, what does this mean for us? So I'm taking what's in the book and I'm bringing that uh, into people's lives. And
Hmm.
I also see what's happening in my life, and I'm trying to pull myself out of that. So that's what this message is kind of. It's like, oh wow, where am I? Where am I struggling myself? And where can I seek some divine guidance in understanding that? So
All right, well, let's play it.
there you go.
I have to mute you and I have to mute myself in order for this to work. And like, this is technology at its outermost stretches, I think. So I won't guarantee that it's going to work, but we're going to do it. We're going to give it our best shot. So here we go.
They say the eyes are the window to the soul. If that's the case, then your screen, it's a mirror to it. That small glowing rectangle that we all hold, it doesn't just show you the world, it shows you yourself. What you linger on, scroll past, double tap, it's all a quiet echo of your inner state. Swedenborg speaks of the affirmative mind, one that trusts in spiritual truth and sees light even in shadow. He also warns of the negative mind, always doubting, even when shown the truth. Our digital life reflects that. Do we seek the good, the true, the uplifting, or do we feed the cynic within with hours of doom scrolling? The algorithm listens and it mirrors. So the next time you reach for your phone, ask not, what will I see today? Ask, who am I becoming as I see it? They say the eyes are the window to the soul. If that's the case, then your screen, it's a
Well, there. That, then you're spending a
Howard,
lot of time.
Howard,
Yeah.
Howard. Um, we were muted there for a little bit. That's why this is a.
Ah,
So I don't think anybody heard anything from when you started to talk about how you made it. I'm very sorry to everybody. Um, so can you back up a little bit?
I can.
How did you make it? What did you do to
Yeah,
make it? And
yeah.
what's behind it? You started by talking about
So,
your ancient
so when I
camera.
yeah, so when I started and I had the ancient camera, I didn't have very good audio, so I had to record the audio separately and sync it up. That took a lot of time. I didn't have a teleprompter. I had a whiteboard with a hole in it. The camera stuck through the hole, and then I had all the script and stuff written all around it.
Smart.
Um, it got the job done. I've over the years upgraded things. I now use a wireless microphone that connects directly into the camera that I use. I did get a new camera last year. I now actually have a proper teleprompter. Um, and so all of that, just from a a production standpoint, that just makes everything so much quicker and so much easier and
So
smoother.
Howard,
Yeah,
when we're done with this, maybe you can send me just some of the details about the equipment that you've purchased, and I can add that in to
yeah,
the saved version of the video. So anybody who wants to see, well, how much did Howard spend, or uh, how far did he go when he was getting a camera or something? Because you could spend a bazillion dollars on a camera if you wanted to. Although most people I know do not spend
$1
huge
billion.
dollar amounts. Yeah, uh,
Yeah,
I think it would be helpful. So,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
well, go ahead.
I mean, I haven't not spent money, but I think you know, by virtue of the fact that I still use the free version of iMovie on my MacBook,
Yeah,
you, you, you know I'm not spending frivolously.
it's a great
Um,
program.
it gets the job done.
Yeah, John is
Um,
asking your teleprompter. Are you using an iPad with that? Uh,
I use an iPad with my teleprompter.
yeah.
Yep, yep. But it doesn't. I mean, you don't have to buy a top of the line teleprompter. Or iPad. You just need to make sure that it can run the programs that are available. Um, and even it's funny. Even the teleprompter is kind of a funny thing because I remember Todd showing me a teleprompter that he was using 2 years ago, and and you had to control the speed at which things you could tell it how fast you wanted to go, but if you ever had to stop it or slow it down or speed it up, you had to control that with something in your hand. And
Yeah.
I am not a multitasker.
I think you can use an app on your phone, right?
You could do that, but my teleprompter now, the one that I ultimately said, this one I can use. My teleprompter listens to what I say and decides the speed at which I'm reading it and adjusts based on that. It's I honestly can't I can't fathom how it does that, but it
Does
does
it
it
ever
and it makes life
correct
so much
you and
easier.
say, Howard, you're going down a rat hole here, and don't say that.
It doesn't correct me in that way, but it'll stop. I have the flexibility to go off on a mild tangent in the middle of it. It'll stop and wait until I start reading it again,
So
which is just fascinating.
did it take you a while to get the hang of using a teleprompter? Because it's not something you just do and it's perfect, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Uh, it honestly didn't, and I think the reason it didn't is because it listens to me.
Okay.
It's just it's wonderful. And to a certain extent, I mean I was already reading off cue cards, so it's not that dramatically different.
Are you
Um,
just reading, completely reading, or are you putting up notes? A lot of people I know use teleprompters, or they use it, but they don't follow it exactly.
yeah. So for my shorts, for anything that's a minute or less, I've got to read the script. I mean, I know the
Yeah,
script,
yeah.
but I have to read the script because I can't I can't I can't. Oh, by the way, also this you can't do it because you're trying to keep it in under that minute. Um, I mean, even a dramatic pause can risk putting you over the minute. So I have to. So on that, when I do my talks, my sermon summaries, I'll have some more flexibility. Um, let's see. Other stuff. Okay. Here's here's what has really allowed me to do what I'm doing. The equipment is great. It does make life a lot easier. The camera itself will track my eyes, right? So it's going to make sure that it stays in focus. It's not, if I move a little bit this way or that way, it's not all of a sudden going to pick up the focal point as the book's behind me. It's going to
Hmm.
stay on me. That's wonderful. If the sun all of a sudden comes out and now it's streaming through the skylights in the church, it'll adjust all of that. It's brilliant. The audio is fantastic. I can do lots of things. I can get rid of, any kind of echoes that are occurring. I can do all of that.
Are you
That
using
all is
your
great.
camera right now?
No, no, this is just my computer.
Okay, gotcha.
Just a camera on my computer.
Mm.
I am using. I'm happy to turn it around for everybody. Um, I am using the chancel lights. Where are they? Where am I? Can you see
Oh
the
yeah.
light over there?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I am using the chancel lights to light me because it's still morning here, very early in the morning. Well, not that early. It's almost 7:30. Um, okay, but I want to stop talking about the physical stuff, and I want to talk about um, the the non-physical tech that I'm using. I use AI.
That was my
Um,
next question, Howard, is AI. I hate to bring it up, but
yep.
you tell me
Nope.
about AI.
Okay. I have the treasurer of our church runs a tech company, and 2-ish years ago, he said, "Howard, this Chat GPT, I think it might allow you to produce more stuff. You should give it a try." I didn't immediately start using it in my video production. What I started to use it for was generating a weekly post on our website. Um, taking some subject and trying to address it in from a spiritual, from a Swedenborgian perspective. And so I got to know ChatGPT through that process. It was a
They go on a
quiet,
first name basis.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've watched ChatGPT change dramatically. The one thing I want to say about ChatGPT, most people on this call probably know Mac Fraser. When ChatGPT first hit, he framed it best for me. He said it's a great research assistant. You'd never put your name on your research assistant's work without checking it. um,
Yeah.
but the assistant can do an awful lot of work for you. Um, my thinking, my thinking on any subject, and any number of instructors that I had in theological school can tell you this. My thinking is a mess. It's random. It's an absolute mess. But ChatGPT AI can really help to organize my thoughts. So I can say, okay, here's what I'm thinking on this, and here are the 5 points that I'm seeing in what I'm reading. And it'll come back and say, yeah, but you shouldn't present them in that order.
Hmm.
Try presenting them in this order. I can write 500 words, and then I can say to ChatGPT, "Hey, does this make any sense?" And ChatGPT is going to say, man, you can't spell, your punctuation is terrible, and your thoughts are all over the place. Why don't you try presenting that in these 500 words?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also find it really, really helpful. So one of the things that I struggle with as a minister serving in far-flung societies is I don't have other guys to sit around a table with. What do you think about? Here's how I see it. The time in theological school with 8 or 10 other guys sitting around saying, "Oh, how do you see that? Oh, I see it this way. Well, you're wrong. You're an idiot." That back and forth for me is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't have that. I don't have that as a sole pastor in a small society. Um, ChatGPT can really be helpful in spurring my creativity, in helping me to see things in a way that I hadn't seen it before.
So how about New Christian Bible Studies AI that they have? Do you use that? It's for some
I
of this?
actually, I use well, it all depends on something that is more writing focused. Um, I'll stick with ChatGPT. That said, New Christian Bible Studies chatbot has now developed better writing capabilities. Um, I've got a video out there, a couple of from a month or so ago, called "Don't Look to the Bible for Answers," or "Don't Read the Bible for Answers." Um, that was almost exclusively written by um, the New Christian Bible Studies chatbot, and actually on a lark.
Hmm.
I said, I said, hey, I don't think you should uh, read the Bible for answers. I think you should read the Bible regularly and allow those answers to come up for you, right?
Hmm.
And it's, I'm actually very proud of that video. Um, so I said to the chatbot on New Christian Bible Study, okay, make a witty uh, make a witty and engaging vlog script based on this idea. And boom, boy, it really, I mean, to say, can you write me a script? That's one thing, but to say, can you make it a little edgy or witty, and for it to say, yeah, I can. Here you go. I was very pleased with that. So now what I often do is I'll use both of them. I'll ask the same question of both ChatGPT and New Christian Bible Studies chatbot. And then I'll ask ChatGPT, which one do you prefer?
Interesting. I,
And it doesn't
I,
always prefer itself, which
yeah.
is really great. And it'll often say, I prefer the version 1, but I would add this from version 2, that kind of stuff. It's a
Mm-hmm.
real collaboration, and I'm and
Wow.
and it sounds like, oh, you're adding extra steps, but the time saved in the actual writing is more than worth it. And to see where it takes it. Now, the one thing I will say, and even New Christian Bible Study does the same thing, you got to check every single quote. Every single quote. If it's suggesting a quote from Apocalypse Explained, you'd better go double check that. Um, ChatGPT uh, is even less reliable on specific quotes. Um, and but New Christian Bible Study, their quotes aren't always accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to yeah, they're not always accurate. So you have to double check it. And I go back to what Max said. You wouldn't put your name on it weren't absolutely convinced that it was accurate. Um,
So
one, I'm trying to
yeah,
think of
go.
all the different ways that I'm using it. Um, what I first started using it for in my video production was to summarize my longer sermons. So most of my sermons are 1,700 to 2,000 words long when it, if I put it down in a manuscript. So I'll write the sermon and then I'll say to ChatGPT, here's my 2,000 word sermon. Can you turn it into 500 words for a vlog? That that saves me so much time. I mean, I'm already writing the sermon. it's, I'm already putting a lot of time into writing the sermon. I don't want to have to put another hour into rewriting the sermon from 2,000 words down to 500 words.
So a
ChatGPT is really
2 minute
helpful.
short, how many words is in a 2 minute short?
A 1 minute will be 150 words.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're still talking like if it's a legit short, it's 150 words.
Yeah.
It's like a commercial.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
my assumption is that you're using AI's help to boil something down to 150 words. Is that correct?
Yep. Yep. I rarely have to boil it up. It's easy to put in filler words.
Right. But that has to be
Um,
tight
yeah.
then.
That's tight. Yeah, 150 words is tight. I actually, my sweet spot's about 139 words. Not that I've actually looked at it, but it just seems if it's 139 words, I'm not talking too fast. I
Mm-hmm.
don't sound like I'm rushing. I don't have to cut a lot of ums and ahs out or
Mm-hmm.
silent spots.
So
139 is good.
John is commenting on your voice, and he's wondering if you got some training for your voice and what you did to get your voice up to snuff, as it were. I agree. It sounds terrific.
Uh,
We're all shaking our heads here in positive
well,
ways.
I'm going to say, John, I love you. And I love everybody who responds well to my voice. I hate my voice, just like everybody else. It doesn't sound like my voice when I hear it in a recording. Um, I have done absolutely nothing. I have done absolutely nothing. It's we all have gifts. It's one of my gifts. I have no idea. I
Hmm.
haven't done any training. Um, I've learned. I wouldn't even say that I've learned anything in 5 years of doing the videos, but I will say that I've become much more comfortable than I was.
Hmm. Wow. Well, I would
Um,
have thought that Deborah, being a former professional in theater, would have been right behind you with, I don't know, electrodes or something. If you said something wrong, she'd be like,
yeah.
no, none of that.
No, no.
Wow.
She doesn't get involved in my video production at all, which is probably a good thing. But she's a good proofreader. She proofreads most of my newsletter stuff. But um, yeah, no, no. I wish I could say that I'd put a lot of effort into trying to make my voice more welcoming or whatever it is, but it's just my voice.
Can you tell me a little bit about your target audience for specifically thinking about the spiritual shorts?
Yeah. My target audience, if I had a target audience, my target audience would be people that know this stuff, they've just never found it. Like I had one commenter. Um, this was on the Adam and Eve thing, and I really appreciated this. He in the midst of all the controversy and the people calling me all kinds of names on there, I had one guy that said, "Hey, can you can you can you tell me a little more about this? Because I'm inclined to believe it." I really just the way he said, I'm inclined, forget all the noise. I hear what you're saying, and it's resonating with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people that I want to reach. And the way that I reach, because those people are they're a diamond in the rough. They're unique, and there aren't a lot of them out there. Um, I should say there aren't a lot of them out there in the online faith world.
Hmm.
I think they're out there. They're just not engaged because they've heard so much stuff that makes no sense to them from a faith perspective. I'd also like to reach the people that, you know what, I just, I mean, everybody's channel is doing something different and it's engaging people on a different level. Um, I think real conversations from on faith. Um, I, I think they're hard to have on online. I know I have a hard time having a, a deep, engaging conversation with another human being on a screen. I did a telehealth appointment with my doctor last week or 2 weeks ago, and I finished it, and I thought, I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. I mean, okay, maybe if I have to like renew a prescription, I'll do it. But
Hmm.
all I was asking for was a referral for something, and the conversation, and this isn't a dig on my doctor. I just didn't. I I couldn't see his face. I couldn't hear. I didn't feel like I had the flexibility to engage with him on a way that I would have in the doctor's office. And I feel like that from a lot of our faith conversations. So that said, I want to put things out there that people can watch, regularly. They can grab it on their phone, and it's not the same old hooey that they're getting on other stuff, and they're not hearing politicians yelling at each other, and they're not,
Hmm.
and it just gives them a snippet, a spiritual short, shall we say.
So, yeah, so Swedenborg's theology isn't always known for being that accessible. And I actually think a lot of the books are just fantastically exciting. But I'm a bishop of a church. So, what are you doing about how you're voicing your theology to those people who are predisposed to, hearing affirmatively what you're saying, but maybe they have never cracked even the Bible open?
um, So, Dave, you know this. A couple of people watching this probably know this. For the first 25 years of my adult life, I was in the risk management business. And boy, if anybody likes acronyms uh, as much as the military, it's the insurance business. And people talk in weird ways about weird things that most people think about maybe once a year. And they use these terms, and and it's no different in the faith world. If I'm using these, I'm not going to try and replicate any of it, but I'll get in faith conversations with people, and they're talking about in this language of faith that identifies them within their select group, their select faith group. But I'm like, that's like a different language. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to be a part of your group, I'll learn the language, but why should I have to learn your language to be a part of your group and understand what you're saying? When I was in the insurance business, I hated those terms. I wanted to make sure that the person sitting across from the table with me, doing business with me, understood what I was saying and how that affected their business. And at the same time, when I present something, a uniquely Swedenborgian teaching, I don't want to use words like influx. What the heck is that?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to present, the ideas in terms that a person can go, oh yeah, yeah, of course, I get that. I see that in myself. Um, and this book, I mentioned this book, um, Gems of Swedenborg. Even the little snippet summaries, again, it's written in the 1800s. I, I, I wouldn't suggest anybody read this. I went through, over a 2-year period, I went through this entire book, took all 250 little doctrinal points, and with the help of AI, rewrote every single one, 100 words or less.
So we can just watch your shorts. We don't need to read the book, right?
And I think, no, well, not this, I wouldn't read this book. It's 1800s language.
Right.
Um, what is it we learned in theological school? Generals to particulars. You've got to understand the general concept before you can really dig down into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what I'm trying to present. I'm trying to present these doctrinal ideas in a way that a person can generally get. Yeah, yeah. I'm inclined to accept what you're saying. Tell me more.
Does AI do some of that for you, or are you really needing to boil that down?
What do you mean? Does AI do that for you?
Oh, is AI voicing some of these concepts in a way that works for you, or are you having to figure out, well, how do I say this how do I talk about influx? Um,
Oh, no, I have a general idea of what influx is, so I can boil that down.
no, I got it.
um,
Uh,
um, but so I'll give you a great example. Um, my heaven and hell series.
mm-hmm.
I will take the numbers that are included in the chapter subheading, and I will put those into ChatGPT. Now I'm reading them myself,
Yeah.
but then I'll put it into ChatGPT, and I will give it instructions, and I will say, my general understanding of this is this. I would like a script to describe this or to summarize this. And I think this particular subject, it could be witty. This subject, it's a little heavier. Maybe we could be a little more serious. And I can tell it the tone I want it to be in. I can
Mm-hmm.
also tell it what I want it to uh, emphasize and what I think is the important part. So it's a collaborative effort, shockingly collaborative effort.
I wanted to jump back to a question that Hyun Jin had asked, and Hyun Jin is a pastor on the other side of Sydney. I'm glad he could be here. He was just wondering, what do you do with the negative comments that you get on your channel?
Really good question. I'm going to apologize to anybody that's trying to reach out to me on the comments. I don't watch the comments.
Yeah, no, I
It's
just
just yeah,
you can read them
yeah. So
afterward, but I've been pulling out the main ones.
yeah, I mention that just so that you don't think I'm ignoring anybody, because I'm ignoring you all, only to the extent that I can't keep track of. I can't engage in this conversation and also see what's going on the side.
Got it.
Um, yeah, some people are multitaskers. I'm not. So what do I do with negative comments? I probably have lower tolerance for negative comments than other people. Um, I I will if I have a negative comment, I will generally try and engage with the person once. Um, that as far as here's the story I create about it. If somebody has a general comment, I'll give an example. A number of times ago, somebody commented, um, put a question because I referred to the Lord as He, and they said He with a question mark. And I said, well, it is, and I responded to the person. I said, listen, it's a short video. I can only use so many words, and that wasn't really the main point of it. But I'm happy to engage with you on a conversation of why I would
Uh-oh.
use that word when referring to the Lord. And then responded. So I'm like, okay, that person just wanted to make a point, and I'm glad they made it. I leave it at that. If somebody is right off the bat abusive,
Mhm.
I just delete it. I just delete it. Nobody needs to see that. Um, and if if somebody has said something, it's not it's challenging but not abusive, I'm happy to engage. But at the same time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. If they disagree with me, they disagree with me.
So at newchurch.org, we do a lot of interactions with email. So it's just a website. So we probably get 150 or so comments and questions in a week. And what have noticed is that people will come on and they'll say something negative, and you're going to hell because you think works can save you or something like that, sort of a Swedenborgian dialogue. And when we engage with those, I would have thought 1 in 100 would have become warm to our back and forth, and the rest would have been like, you're just going to hell. And what I noticed is actually it's a very high percentage, the vast majority of people who we interact with about our theology, even though they're starting off from a negative viewpoint, they wind up walking away thinking, oh, I get it. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I like that. And it actually was one of these things that was really heartwarming for me because I was expecting just a slog and a battle the whole time. It's not the case. So anyway, just throw that out there.
Yeah,
We are.
that's heartwarming.
It is. It is. And people care.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, they're just interested. Who are these people? Do we get them or not? And they're not interested in leaving their faith and joining our faith. If they're people
Yeah.
commenting, hey, I disagree with your theology, that probably means they're pretty happy with their theology.
Yeah.
Fine. But when they can have a perspective and an understanding of who we are and what we do, I feel like, well, we've gained a friend, and I think that helps them on their spiritual journey. That's generally a really good thing. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
um,
You probably want me to start thinking about a closing thought or two.
yeah, that's
I
right.
would add a couple of things about where I'd like to go next. I still don't live stream. I think that my resistance to that is probably just an ongoing self-consciousness. Um, I put a lot of time into making sure that my videos look right, that I am a likable person whose people can feel comfortable listening to. I'd hate to be up there hemming and hawing, and I would hate knowing that I'm being live streamed to impact how I am in face to face with my congregation, if that makes any sense. So I'll get
Interesting.
over that one of these days. I'd like to do some on my own channel, do some more of these live conversations. So I'm thinking about that. I'd like to do some more collaborative interview style content. Off Left Eye does that wonderfully.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan and Curtis and others. And I constantly working to improve my workflow and my scheduling. Um, you know, I didn't really talk about that much, but I do use some services to push out my videos. So I give it to this service. It's an online service. And I say, I want this video and I want it to go out to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and I want it to go out on Thursday. So I use those. Those help things move along. The longer format videos, I do straight on YouTube because they allow you to schedule. Um, and yeah, so I don't have the best system. I've got, you know, an Excel spreadsheet that tracks everything that I'm doing, and then the stuff that I am actively working on, I have that on a big whiteboard. Again, if anybody wants to see my whiteboard,
Oh yeah.
there's my whiteboard. That's got everything that I plan on doing between now and May. Um, and you know, and I have, you know, check marks whether or not it's scripted, check marks whether or not it's been video or recorded or created, check marks on whether or not it's been edited, and check marks on whether or not it's been uploaded. So when everything is green, all my check marks are green on the whole board, then I wipe it clean and I start to look to June, July, and August.
All right, Howard, we're at the top of the hour here. Uh, I guess I have a couple of things to say. Well, the first one is I am deeply grateful that you are willing to share your wisdom and your heart that you've put into all of this. It feels like a generative conversation. And I also am really grateful for the different comments that we had coming in because I think that that really added value to the discussion as well. So I really look forward to doing more of these. And when it comes to live streaming, well, Howard, I think you hit it out of the park. So there's, I just think you did a great job. So thank you for everybody who joined us, and we'll be putting this up. The recorded version will go up onto the site so people can watch it afterward as well. So thanks again.